Hi, I'm Anthony Originello, CEO of the Chartered Professionals in Human Resources for BC and Yukon. We represent more than 8,000 members, and as the organization dedicated to advancing the HR profession through education, advocacy, awareness, professional development, as well as our recognized and impactful CPHR designation, we are proud to be a sponsor of this show. We have been the voice of the HR profession since 1942. Learn more about us at cphrbc.ca.
In this edition of Careers That Matter, I'm joined by Lasse Gustavsson, the CEO of OceanWise. Lasse, welcome.
Thank you.
CEO of OceanWise. What kind of a job is that? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, so what I do is I lead the organization in the strategy development. This is where we're going. So basically my job is to help the organization to understand where we're going to be in the next 3 or 4 years. Then we're building system and setting targets for the organization. Then we delegate those targets to individuals and directors in the organization. And then we do what Ronald Reagan suggested we do. He learned from the Russian. This is a Russian proverb. He says, trust but verify. So we as a CEO, you point out the direction. And you set up the systems that allow people to perform on the top of their capacity within that system. Then you check on delivery. That's a really important part of your job. The other part of your job, you make the organization known to new people. Whether they are people who could support you with money, they are people who need to listen to your scientific recommendations, but you're out there as the ambassador for the organization, if you like.
So one's outward facing, the other is internal.
And both. Yeah. Both important.
Okay. You're an international organization. How many people do you have reporting to you as far as the internal operation are concerned?
So to me directly, I have 4 VPs, 3 VPs and a COO, and I have an assistant. They report to me. We have 11 directors responsible for 11 different areas, whether that's finance or it's one of our conservation programs. They report into the VPs.
And are they all based in Vancouver or are they spread out internationally?
They are all based in a Canadian time zone, which is how we hire. When COVID hit and everybody went back and worked from their kitchen or their living rooms or basements or wherever they found a corner that they could do their job, we found out that a lot of the work works as good as before. So we are on this experiment. Can people work from home? And sometimes it's not working. Most of the time it's working. But we think of this as so working remotely or working from home as an experiment in how can we attract the best talent and what kind of conditions do we need to give them. We're not convinced that this level of freedom is working for everybody. We've had people coming back and say, I need more rules. So then we create more rules. But we started with, let's see what works. And I think we're on a learning journey together with almost any other organization. Many of the big ones now are trying to force their staff coming back. I'm not sure that's the best way, but also we do see that information sharing is becoming increasingly difficult. People feel a little bit isolated, especially if they're not in a big city where they have many colleagues. So we're trying. We'll see.
Well, like any organization, it is you try, you adapt, you adjust, you continue to improve.
Exactly.
So all those people are paid.
All those people are paid.
How many more people are on your payroll?
So there's about 100.
Or is that it?
There's about 100 people working full time for OceanWise. Then we have programs that mobilizes volunteers. So we have a shoreline cleanup program where we clean beaches in Canada and the US. These are people who are not paid by OceanWise. They're not paid by anybody. Some of them are paid by the company they work for. The company takes their crew on a shoreline cleanup. Some of them just go with their neighbors and OceanWise and they clean up their beach and they're volunteers.
So what's your source of funding?
So we, up to recently, 50% of what we had in terms of money was from the federal government. There was a big change last year, so that's shrinking. We have corporate collaborations and partnerships, not sponsoring, but we do things together with companies. That's another 25%, and then about 25% is individuals who so philanthropy, if you like.
So a part of your job then is to reach out and help to convince people to support what you're doing financially.
Absolutely. I would say my 2 most important jobs is to be the strategist for the conservation programs and the chief fundraiser.
Right. More so than even being the spokesperson. Or maybe that
It's
becomes
part of
a
the
part.
same. No? So the interesting thing is OceanWise is relatively unknown. When people get to know us, they like to give us money because we're doing good stuff. We're just not as known. And we have this rule. We don't brag in advance. A lot of people and a lot of organizations, we're going to do this and then we're going to do that. No, we're trying to say, we did this and now we're looking at the next thing. So we're trying to sell our track record, not our dreams.
How many hours a week do you work? Because you're taking on a lot of responsibility here.
I work maybe 40, 50 hours. It's not as hard as it's. I used to run the conservation program for the World Wildlife Fund. That's in 100 countries and that's 5,000 people. Every day, 24 hours was working. So this is small. I also have a great executive team. So a lot of the things I can delegate. So working 40, 50 hours, but I'm always available. And it's also hard. Where do you draw the line?
Where do you draw the line? Because your mind is always going to be on the work.
So one of my habits is Saturday morning I'm going through the science, what's been going on in science this week. I do it because I'm curious, I like it, it gives me satisfaction, but of course it's also benefiting my organization.
Right.
So what's work? I'm privileged in the sense that I'm getting paid for something that I love to do.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say what's actually work. Yes, going through Excels and looking at the budget reports, I think that's boring and necessary. So that's that's clearly work. Reading scientific reports, however, it is work, but it isn't. I would have done it even if I didn't get paid.
Because it's exciting.
You're
learning.
It.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to, where did you grow up?
I grew up on a small town on the Swedish west coast, in the harbor actually. My dad worked in the harbors and my mom was a receptionist in an insurance company. I'm the one out of 19 cousins, so I actually had the chance to go to university and I studied international relations.
So you're growing up as a kid and environmentalism was not high on anybody's agenda, especially in a small little town on the west coast of Sweden.
We didn't have all the girls when we were teenagers. We were the odd ones on the corner. There was not a lot of environmentalists in my hometown. There was a group of field biologists, it's called the Youth Organization of the Swedish Society for Nature Conservation. I joined them when I was 14.
Why? What attracted you to them?
I'll be honest with you, there were two things. I'm really spending a lot of time outdoors. My dad and my mom, they told us on Saturday when I have a sister, they said us breakfast and out you go. Come back when you're hungry. And by the way, that's 12 o'clock. So our rule was to live outside and ask for permission to come inside. The opposite of kids today, no?
Right.
So I spend a lot of time outside and in a small town, relatively safe, you could go on a little bit of excursions and find out things. So I got curious about nature. And then there was a redhead girl. And I'm not going to deny that she was part of the pool joining into this group of young environmentalists.
The promise of love. It's amazing how it draws us in so many different directions, isn't
correct.
it?
Yeah.
But once you were in, you were hooked.
Yes, and then we went camping, we went bird watching, we went tracking for moose, all sorts of. So I spent my youth outdoors.
Where'd you go to university?
I studied international relations and what is now called development science and ecology at the University of Gothenburg.
Okay, but that's not focused on the environment.
No.
So what happened?
So I'm an environmentalist because I care about people. So I never thought of environmentalism as a career, and I didn't have a job as an environmentalist until I was 38.
Because your mother told you it wasn't a good career choice.
So my parents wanted me to be an accountant because they were poorly educated, coming from families without resources, but they were readers, both of them. So they were good parents and they wanted the best of us for us, but they also wanted safety.
Yeah.
And an accountant is a much better career choice than being an environmentalist in the 1970s, for sure.
So you graduated from university. Where did you start to work?
At that time, then I was an activist. So I was mobilizing people around Scandinavia, doing all sorts of demonstrations and protests and all that stuff. And I was working as a substitute teacher. I was working at the bar bouncer, doing all sorts of stuff to pay my bills. Which was my mother's main concern. You have to pay your bills. And of course you have to pay your bills. I was more relaxed than my mother, but I was an activist until I got paid and I was working side gigs to pay my rent.
You were an activist advocating for the environment.
Exactly.
Wow. And that you were still employable Because
Surprising.
when did you first wind up getting paid? You said 38 years of age.
I was 38
before-
years and I went straight from being an activist to be a CEO for a Sustainable Technology Institute.
Where?
In Gothenburg, where I studied. I studied in Gothenburg. I stayed in Gothenburg. My kids are born in Gothenburg, and I started to work for an organization called Ecocenter, which is an exhibition and educational center for sustainable technology.
How do you go from being an organizer of protest to being the CEO of an organization? What, first of all, made you believe that you could do it, and what did your employers see in you that said, "Yeah, we're going to take a chance on this guy"?
One, you're an organizer. What is a CEO? Is an organizer. You know, this is where we're going. This is how we're going to get there. Here are the resources. So the step from being an organizer of social movements and not-for-profit organizations to become a paid CEO wasn't as big as it looks like on paper.
Right.
I was basically doing the same thing, and now I had a paycheck. And I was focused on slightly different issues. Now it was waste management, it was education, or it was how you build a sustainable car. Gothenburg is of course Volvo territory. This is when Volvo created their first biofuel car. It wasn't a commercial success, but that was part of what Ecocenter was promoting and helping to happen.
So you were able to do work with a sense of purpose and still get a paycheck.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. How long did you do that for?
So then I did that for 4 or 5 years. So basically a turnaround, turning it into an institute that was running on its own money.
Yeah.
Then I was headhunted.
Because you were raising money for it as well.
Money is the fuel.
Yeah.
For a not-for-profit organization, you always need money. Conservation without cash is conversation. I'm not in the game of talking. I'm in the game of doing, and I've always been in the game of doing. So if you want to have a really strong social movement for forests in Norway, or if you want to make sure that the biofuel car from Volvo has consumer groups that buys it, it's not that different.
Right.
You need a strong idea, you need to have a good methodology, and you need to have a good product.
So where'd you go next?
Then I was headhunted by Greenpeace. And this is
a Vancouver organization originally, but probably in Amsterdam by the time.
This was in Amsterdam, and I wasn't a cool Greenpeace guy. I was the policy and science director. So now I've built the reputation of knowing my stuff, and now Greenpeace needed somebody to lead their work in international negotiations in multilateral environmental agreements. I'm not a Greenpeace guy. I love Greenpeace from the outside, but campaign organizations like Greenpeace needs to be black and white. Big is bad, small is good, blah, blah, blah. I like complexity. The world isn't easy. So I left Greenpeace after 2 years and I joined the World Wildlife Fund. And I stayed,
that's an even bigger organization.
And I stayed in WWF for 12 years.
Wow.
And I was the Baltic Sea Program Director. This is my first time I was running an ocean program. I became the CEO of the Swedish entity. And then I became the Global Program Director, so the Global Conservation Leader. And I did that until I was so tired and I didn't have any energy left. So I resigned to do nothing for 6 months. And then I joined an organization called Oceana, doing policy work around fisheries and marine protected areas. And I did that until they called me from Vancouver. And they asked me, do you want to come and run Vancouver Aquarium? And I said, no. I've actually been to the aquarium. I like it. It's a good aquarium, probably top 10 in the world, or at least the top 10% in the world. But I'm not an aquarium guy. And they said, don't worry about the aquarium. We can run aquariums. We've been running this aquarium for more than 50 years, but we want to evolve as an organization. We want to become a global conservation group. So that's how they lured me from Spain, where I was working for Oceana, to Vancouver.
And you're glad you came.
And here I am, and I've stayed in this job longer than in any other job, so it seems like I like it. And I've applied for Canadian citizenship.
So you create OceanWise at the aquarium.
So I came in, I was 1 year the CEO of a Vancouver aquarium, and then COVID happened.
Yeah.
I called my sister who runs a hospital, and I said, tell me about pandemics. And she says, I don't know about this one, but 3 to 5 years is the normal time. So I checked all our bank accounts, all the credits. There's not a politician with a phone number that I haven't talked to. We raised more money than any other for-profit organization in Western Canada. And we lost $1 million a month. We laid off 550 people. We kept the core who kept the animals alive and the building intact.
But nobody was coming through the turnstile.
We couldn't. We were not.
Right.
Where we shut down 2 days before we were mandated because we know science and we're responsible people. Then I went to the board. I said, we're not going to survive. Then we set up 2 working committees. One was looking at how can we evolve, and the other one was looking at how can we sell the aquarium. And then we sold the aquarium.
To Dolly Parton.
To Herschel Family Enterprises, who is in a joint venture with Dolly Parton.
Right.
I love Dolly Parton.
It's more fun to say Dolly Parton.
I was nervous when I was announcing this to the public because I know Canadians don't like Americans as much as we think they do. And Dolly Parton has a mixed reputation. I love Dolly Parton. She's a wonderful woman, a very generous philanthropist.
And what an extraordinary life journey she's been on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So after we sold the aquarium, we were, shoot, where are we now? What are we now? And that's when the idea of let's build that global conservation group. That's how OceanWise 2.0 started, basically. And that's 4 years ago.
Wow. When you take a look at your career, the path that it took, what is it that you learned about yourself that when you were younger, you would have had no idea that you had the capacity for? And I ask that question because we designed this program because we have wonderful guests like you come on to Conversations That Matter and found young people going, what does it take to be like that person? And one of those things is when you're younger, you don't necessarily know what your strengths are, but they emerge through experience. What did you learn about yourself that you now go, I didn't know that I had that, but my oh my, is it ever important?
It's very interesting because I was mediocre in school. I wasn't bad, I wasn't good, I was average. Nobody was worried about me, but nobody was impressed either. I was just one of the middle of the road guys, no? So I'm not especially talented intellectually. I'm not smarter than the average person. My father said once, off the cuff, I'm not sure it meant anything to me, but it meant everything to me. He said, don't die curious. Try everything. So he gave me the permission, without even knowing, I think, to try everything. And since then, I've had the inclination to say yes to challenges. So if somebody says, you want to come to Vancouver? First I say yes, first I say no, but then I actually do say yes and I come.
Right.
And what I've learned on my almost 40 years as an environmentalist, I'm a stubborn beast. And I'm not giving up. So if I started mediocre, the fact that I'm still here and one of the world's most experienced environmentalists is because I didn't stop. It wasn't because I was smarter than everybody else. I was just more dedicated. And I didn't give up 10 years in or 15 years in. I just continued. So that stubbornness or perseverance and the dedication, if you like, is what makes me as successful as I am. And it's because 90% is perseverance. It's hard work.
It's hard.
Talent is great. I was a talented sport kid, but I was lazy in sports, so I didn't go anywhere. Talent doesn't guarantee success. Talent is great. You can get successful without talent, but you can't get successful without hard work.
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving us insight into your current job, your career path, and your life lesson for younger people who are watching this show. Appreciate it.
Hang in there is the formula.
Thank you.
Thank you.